Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's Public Services Committee. We've got a brilliant packed agenda to whiz through tonight, so do bear with us if we kind of keep the pace up as we get through. Lots of wonderful guests as well with us, who we will come to later on. As is the tradition, we will work through our sort of apologies for absence. I don't think we've had any. Just to note, Councillor
Elsie's away.
He's away, lovely. So I propose that we accept those. Can you have a second?
Second, that's right.
All in favour? Wonderful. And then just to note the minutes of our last meeting, which was the 3rd of June. I don't think anyone has any comments or questions on those. Lovely. Same again. I propose that we accept those minutes.
Second, Chair.
Lovely. Everyone happy? In favour? Lovely. Chairman's update. Just some general musings, I thought, just to reflect on what a triumphant season of Eastport Live. It was a really splendid year, so thank you to everybody involved in that. They were a triumph. And just to point out, we've got our brilliant classic car show coming up. Is it the 7th? 7th. So thank you again for organising that. Look forward to seeing everybody there. Members' declarations of interest. Anyone got anything for us to note this evening? No. Lovely. Then we're on to the meat of the meeting. We are going to hand over to Inspector Derrick. Thank you again for coming back.
No problem.
I'm sure you're aware that many of the councillors around the table had a lovely meeting with Katie Bourne recently, so I'm sure we will be picking up on the actions from that. But we'll be very grateful for an update of some of what's been happening over the summer.
I'll stuck to the same theme as I did last time, because it seems to go down very well. And getting the analysts to do it again for me is really easy, because I've said the same as before. So the data I'm going to give you is based on the last 3 months, ending in July, so 3 months before that. So in the last 3 months, Sussex Police took 1,981 calls to Grinstead. Sam, I can give you these notes if you we took 1,981 calls in East Grinstead over 3 months. To categorise that for you, Sussex Police take about 1,800 to 2,000 calls per day across Sussex. So over 3 months, we took just under 2,000 from East Grinstead. Of those, just short of 2,000 incidents, 338 were Category A incidents. And to put it into context, what a Category A incident is, that is a 999. Police must be there within 10 minutes. So on 338 times in 3 months, police were here dealing with people in their household 338 times. Of the 2,000 calls, we got another 153 Category B, which gives us about 2 hours to get there. And of all those calls, there was quite a considerable amount of domestic abuse in it. Domestic abuse is a problem everywhere. 152 of those calls have a domestic abuse tag, which means there are now 155 crime investigations going on with families based within East Grinstead, which means there are police dealing with them daily. Our response investigation teams will be monitoring those cases in weeks or months ahead. So there's quite a considerable amount of domestic abuse. Of the 2,000 calls, we don't attend all the calls in person, because some calls are dealt with on the phone. Police attended in person 742 times within East Grinstead within those 3 months. So that meant on 742 occasions, police had an obligation to attend or needed to attend to start a crime investigation of to see people within households. Of the 742 we attended in person, 95 were violent crimes, 120 medical incidents of concern. Put it in slight context, you're thinking why police attending medical incidents. Sometimes if there's a medical episode, the ambulance crew need police to go involved, and that would be things like there's been a fight, there's been a knife involved, could be a stabbing. I'm not saying they all were stabbings, but sometimes police have to go with ambulance crews. And sometimes if they're so violent in their nature, the ambulance crew will hold off around the corner until police might go with them. But then we would go on a Category A response to get there at the same time as them. Of the 742 we attended in person, 95 violent, 122 medical, 83 suspicious acts, 35 road-related incidents. I'm sure those two gentlemen will be interested in that. That was the East Grinstead for 3 months. 29 road traffic crashes, 42 acts of antisocial behaviour, and 8 burglaries. So that is quite a bit of a theme of what's gone on in the last 3 months in East Grinstead. To give you some idea on statistics on what it's looking like, compared to the rolling year, because how do we measure success in policing? We just measure ourselves based on the last year or the previous year and whether our crime trend is going up or down. The overall crime recorded in East Grinstead on this rolling year has been reduced by 0.3%, so it's going down, which is good news for us. One of the biggest drops in the total crime themes, there has been a 19% reduction in burglary in East Grinstead based on the previous year. So there's some lots of work we did last year around burglaries and doing nighttime patrols and putting static cops waiting near AM car cameras, watching cars coming from outside the county. Seems to have worked for East Grinstead because burglary's gone down. That is probably the largest drop seen in West Sussex. There's no change for robbery. We are talking about really low numbers. On the subject of robbery, robbery is a theft where some violence is used to commit the theft, but the violence has to be used to commit the theft and not afterwards. The Home Office counting statistics have changed slightly. So if someone commits a business theft in a shop, let's say for instance, which we would class that as a theft shoplifting, if there's some violence afterwards now, they're now recording that as a robbery. So we may see an increase in robbery. Quite often, if the shopkeeper tries to stop the person, they'll nudge them out of the way or whatever, and that's an assault. So they're now being recorded as robberies. So we may see it rising in those, and we're expecting to see it because they'll just be shopliftings, but we'll be able to contextualise it to say what is a proper robbery. And the robberies, using a weapon to get something off someone, it's a really serious offence, 14 years imprisonment, and be able to differentiate it, whether it's just a shoplifting or something's been nudged on the way out of the shop. So no change in robbery compared to last year. There's a 3.2% reduction, a 3.2% increase in the possession of weapons in East Grinstead. They're very, very low numbers, so nothing in there really concerns me. And there's been an 8.1% reduction in total recorded domestic abuse crime. It's good for domestic abuse because domestic abuse is very topical for policing the way it should be. It's really important business. We probably estimate if someone reports domestic abuse, 95% of the time the victim is female. It's probably the third time she's been a victim of domestic abuse. It's dropped slightly, and what we need to be sure of is that women are not afraid to report crimes. So whilst we are happy that domestic abuse has dropped, what we will keep an eye on is to make sure that's consistent with the rest of the county, and that females or anyone is able to report domestic abuse. So that's it for crime statistics in the last 3 months. I'll move on to the police office down the road. So as you know, we met there several weeks ago with Sam and lots of councillors and the Police and Crime Commissioner. We're going to support the relaunch day. It's the first time I've ever been involved in the relaunch of a police office or police station in my 29.5 years. We're going to do it on the 7th of September, which is a celebration day for you in East Grinstead, I think. I've ring-fenced the entire duty team that are on days that day, which is Sergeant Anthony Bentham's team, and they'll all be here for the whole day. That's obviously dependent on there being no murders the night before. If that was the case, they would have a minimum presence of 2 people here to make sure the office is open for the whole day, so we can show people around if they want to come and visit the office. We can have a car outside the kids if they want to sit in it and so on. So we'll join your event and relaunch it. Obviously, the PCC is committed to that building. The estate strategy comes under some of the control of the PCC. The PCC is not in operational control of Sussex Police. That's the Chief Constable. So she doesn't direct police officers, but she does have a say in the estate and what it looks like. She's been very fierce about her support of the East Grinstead office, as I have, of course, because I want my teams there. And as far as I'm aware, that office is staying, and that's not on the table for discussion until now. So that's really good news for us. It remains open 3 days a week. I can't remember what the days were, but we've told Sam that those days. I know it's not 7 days a week, but the office is really underused. It's the lowest visited front office in the whole of Sussex Police, averaging about 3 visits a day when it's open. But I'm dedicated, I'm committed to making sure it stays open. It's not staffed by my staff, it's staffed by the Force Contact Centre. And I want it to remain open. I always say to my staff, we have to try harder with East Grinstead because it's further away. There's 3 towns in mid Sussex. Not that I want to pay the violin, but the front office at Burgess has been closed permanently. So I'm not saying we're lucky, but I'm glad it's staying open. I'm glad it's staying open 3 days a week. I'm going to supply an email address to Sam. So even when the front office is not open, if someone gets there and they don't want to pick up the yellow phone there to get in contact with the contact centre, they can have an email address, and that is monitored by my team 7 days a week. And if anyone in East Grinstead wants to email that inbox, we will go there and visit anyone whenever they want to. So we can make it a bit more fluid, a bit more modern, a bit more open for everyone when they go there. Because I know people don't like doing is pick up the phone, waiting 11 minutes for someone to answer it, or it's aggravating. So I'm going to do that, Sam, and supply that email address for you. It's just our general inbox email address. That's about it. On the updates. The crime patterns and trends are really good. They're all going down. I mean, East Grinstead is a really nice place. I've never lived here. I've never been here till I started being the inspector of Mid Sussex. But I always get here about an hour before I come on, and I go walking down that path and go get a coffee, walk around the town, and I see a really peaceful town. And we're committed to making sure it stays that way.
Thank you, that's wonderful. If I might just do a quick question to follow up on some of the discussion when we very kindly can have a look around the police station. I think I'm sure councillors are the same. We often get residents who say, oh, we really need a police station in town. And I'm very grateful for the discussion on the 7th, and I think that will really help. I'm mindful that there was talk about better signage or perhaps more on the social media. Like, how do we remind residents that although it isn't as much perhaps as we'd hope for with a full 7-day campaign?
I mean, the signage is being done.
Right.
Sam's been CC'd into all those emails. The signage has definitely been done for the police station. The highways control the signage for the roundabouts on the road, and they're being done. I'm not sure they're being done by the 7th, but the stuff is for the police station being done by the 7th, if it's not done already. But the highways are doing signs around the town in a matter of weeks. So that when I did my last conference call about the police office, it was all a done deal. It was all squared away and done. So the signage is being done. The signage has been better at the police station. It's staying open 3 days a week. I'm going to have a sign put up on the door so if anyone gets there and they need to contact us by email, they can do. And it's monitored about 16 hours a day, 7 days a week. And if any resident of East Grinstead wanted to ask us to go there at a certain time, we come and so that's our job. It's all good news for the police officer. I mean, I'd like, of course, who wouldn't love a 7-day police station?
Indeed.
But the 3 people going over the front counter every day, we've got to be clever with our resources and where they are. I always say to my teams, because we're based in Haydensea, so Haydensea seems to get the better edge of the deal. They don't really, because as soon as the teams come on, they go out to East Grinstead. And just like I say, 338 times police have been in this town. Within 10 minutes, a resident died in 999 in 3 months. It's a hell of a lot of resources. It's a hell of a lot of investigations, and it just shows. And usually, when someone dials 999 from East Grinstead, the emergency tops don't come from Mid Sussex. They don't come from Hayward because it's further away. They come from Crawley because they can get on the top road quicker. So the contact centre will just send the closest mapped car, no matter which district they belong to. So mainly they come from Crawley. And when they come here for those 338 times, they go to the police. They do their paperwork there. They sit in there, do the paperwork. They don't return to Crawley. So the stats and the amount of jobs we do here just is a constant reminder that we're working hard here and we're responding to the needs of the communities here. I mean, the 152 domestic abuse victims, there'll be 150 crime files under investigation now. That will repeat itself again in 3 months. And some of those crime investigations may go on for a year or longer. So I hope that's something.
I'm going
I can take any questions.
Honestly, fellow councillors, Councillor Mrs. Percy, thank you.
Thank you very much. It's really interesting. against the domestic abuse and some of the other crimes, I just wanted to mention shoplifting. It's major in the news. I was in a shop the other day, a lady came, I was at the cashier, and she said, there's some teenagers down there shoplifting, and they said, nothing we can do about it. I just wondered, is that the general view? How do you?
So last time I came, I gave a really good example of it's the worst shoplifting, the worst blatant shoplifting I've ever seen. And it was the Marks and Spencers at a BB garage you've got here. And it was this man, and I think you can find it on TikTok.
Yes.
And he just went in and he must have put 10 bottles of Marks and Spencer's wine inside his jacket. I mean, not enough Spencer's Marks and Spencer's wine is. And then a big pack of meats. And then when he walks out, he picks up a bouquet of flowers at the same time. That was sent to us by someone from TikTok, and we had that man in custody in 24 hours. And I managed to move him out of East Grinstead. He wasn't a resident here, and we banned him on East Grinstead. So we can do lots with shoplifting. If any shopkeeper was to call us saying they've been a victim of a theft, it would be tried and investigated. Most shops have CCTV. Most can show who the shoplifter is. So my encouragement is to encourage shop owners to ban shoplifting in. This is being used by lots of companies in East Sussex, and the reporting of shoplifting comes in a lot. With austerity, with the hiking rises, the cost of food going up, that historically throughout generations usually ends in with a lot of shoplifting.
I just got the feeling that the staff member was worried about her own safety if she started reporting it. I just felt that was it rather than shot owner.
Intervening with the offender, and my advice is don't put yourself in danger. That's what the police are trained for.
Yeah.
But everyone who's the victim of a crime, regardless of it's shoplifting or whatever it is, should phone and call the police. Because we don't know about it. We don't know about it.
So you do follow up on it and.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that's a good question. Actually, I have got no, there's a momentary pause. Oh, yes, Councillor Gibson.
Yes, thank you, Ed. Interesting stats as always. We've talked about antisocial behaviour in the past. And as a councillor, I mean, what I would say is that I get the other side of it is when it's occurring within a domestic environment. So there's a block of flats or something, or there's a resident who is, so perhaps being very antisocial. I appreciate that's outside it. I would expect that you get multiple reports of the same incident as well. So you've got some sort of way of funneling down to get it to the same thing. But my question is about it's interesting. There's an interesting article in The Economist this week as well, which is talking about theft, sort of theft for high-end cars we're taking abroad and the problems about containers, container ports, and also talking about mobile phone stealing. In particular when they're open, being snatched up in the street. So at least we don't have that around here. Well, my question is about
there have been thefts of high-value cars in Sussex.
yes.
Really expensive ones. They're clearly being stolen because people know they've got them and where they are, and they're virtually stealing them when they arrive, and they're lifted and they're out of the county before they can even lift.
And apparently out of the country.
Yeah,
Possibly.
We've had a few instances of that. We're able to, there's AM car cameras that surround East Grinstead, and when things like that happen, we can have them watched at night time, so we can see the foreign cars coming into East Grinstead that it doesn't belong here. So that's how we addressed the burglary problem we had here last year, when we had cars coming in from outside the area at a particular time of the night. We would deploy a car to stop intervening.
Yeah, I understand that a lot of the rural crime that goes on is out of county.
The ASB you refer to, we're in a really fortunate position in Mid Sussex, and the fortunate position we're in is that we have an antisocial behaviour team, partly funded by the police and the council. They work in co-location in Haywardsley police station, so there's no breakdown in communication between police and the ASB staff, by the council. And we're able to address ASB issues specifically in social housing. And monthly, Sergeant chairs that meeting. The housing providers are almost forced to come to the meeting, and we address the issues with them, so we can do it really fast time. Us, the council, and the housing provider, by giving tenants warnings.
A lot of my emails as a district councillor is to housing providers. Asking for action on things, so I recognise that. The question I wanted to ask was about what you're seeing in terms of digital crime, in terms of scams online. in terms of people being small amounts being taken and things like that. I mean, I recently paid £10 for the drop off at Gatwick, and then I realised what I'd done was I'd gone to a scam site that creamed off £4 over the on top, just simply by the way I'd
I
searched.
can't give you a definite answer on that. And the reason is this. So online fraud is managed by the City of London, so they're
Yeah.
the United Kingdom leaders for it. I think I'm right, is online fraud is not yet counted in overall crimes, or I've just spoken about, because if it was counted, it would be in the tens of thousands, but I can't be quoted on that, so I'm not exactly sure. So my answer is, I'm not involved in that.
Yeah.
In online fraud. What we are involved in is sometimes we'll have an elderly person and their family come to us and say, I've just gone to visit one and someone's taken £10,000 out of that. That is direct theft, fraud, whatever. And we would work with the banks immediately to investigate that. Fortunately for banks, they're covered in cameras, so are cash fraud machines. You can't go anywhere near a bank without your face being taken. And they're usually relatively easy to investigate. What's not easy to investigate are things that happen online, because largely the people committing them probably not even in that people.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, respected Terry. I just want to pick up on the Chequermead Police Contact Centre again to thank everybody involved over the last few months, because I know it's been a sort of combined effort. The Police and Crime Commissioner, just for the record, Chairman and Town Clerk, if I may, I did get a message directly from Katie Bourne on our quote. Update on the Chequermead Police Station lease. The lease term is 21 years, ends March 2038. A break clause exists to March 2027. I have no intention of ending this lease, so we will not be enforcing this break clause. That is the instruction I have given to the estates team, which corroborates what we've said. Hopefully this puts your mind at ease now. So I'd like to thank Police and Crime Commissioner, everybody involved in lobbying at various levels, and that's really good news. And I hope with the launch, we can combine the sort of the marketing and rebranding of it to get you sort of busy with the public, as it were, in the right way. So, thank you very much for all the efforts.
So my question, my final question, unless there's any others from the councillors, is to touch on speeding and road crime. There was a particularly distressing accident on the Inverhorn Lane, Turners Hill junction, which was a perilous one at the best of times and soon to be vastly busier with the substantial developments. I'd be interested to know, obviously we as a town council take an interest in that and have a sort of an important readout on that later on, but I'd be interested to know, how do you keep an eye on that? How do we ensure that those difficult junctions are particularly safe and obviously?
I can give you the answer, but we don't deal with it. It's neighbour policing, it's not our remit. We have a completely separate department that deal with road traffic. They're called road policing. They have their own command structure, their own inspector. If there has been a serious incident, I'm not sure what it was, whether someone died or not. If it is serious, the road policing inspector would have to do a report to best guess the cause of the accident. Now, if that is the land or the bushes, or because someone couldn't see through the roundabout, they'll include that in the report. If it's a driver error because someone's driving and drunk, they'll say this wouldn't have happened unless it's person B wasn't involved. But if there were issues to do with the, I can't forget what word they used, to do with the furniture of the roundabout, you probably noticed a lot of roundabouts in recent years. There used to be bushes on them and you couldn't see through them, so you sometimes couldn't see what's coming around the roundabout. And what in recent years have all been cut back so you can see straight through a roundabout. So the answer is the road police inspector, of which we have 3 in Sussex, would be asked to do reports, give their after the investigation, and that's to take some action depending on the serious nature of the incident.
Right, understood.
If it was a death, you're talking it's a serious. It is a very serious incident. Obviously, it's involved in death. It could ultimately end up in serious charges for someone that are imprisonable by 10 years imprisonment, causing death by dangerous driving or more. It's very hard to prove, but it is very serious. It's a very serious investigation. The roads policing staff will say to you they investigate them like murder investigations, because that's what they're trying to prove.
Thank you, that's very helpful. Any final comments?
Can I just add a point on that? Because one thing that struck me, I mean, I nearly had a serious accident at that junction at the weekend. And if you look at it, the stop line is well forward of the island.
Yeah.
And anybody coming from Turner's Hill, if there's a car turning right into St Hill,
Yeah.
is tempted to go up the inside of the car turning right and actually go over the top of the stop line.
Definitely.
And I had not thought that through before. So I've written to the highways guy and said that should be looked at, because clearly there's a problem there.
Yeah.
But I've been banging on that because you may be aware that there's 550 homes coming on in Bahorn Lane. And I think a lot of them will be tempted to leave that way rather than go into the Felbridge system.
You've done the right thing, and you've got fast access to the highways agency.
Yes.
And highways set the speed limit for roads, highways do the furnish for the roads, so they're people to best address it.
Thank you.
It's extraordinary. Look at it.
Yes, it's amazing. Lovely. Any final comments before we, Alice, thank you.
Just a quick question from your open day on the classic car show. What are your plans for the day? You're going to come
The
along?
plan is the entire team that's on, it's Sergeant Bencomb's team that's on, and they're not on High Street, they're going to be at the police station.
But how are they anyone going to know about?
You can tell them all.
So you're not, you want us to advertise it, or you?
Yeah, if you want to. I mean, I've never been involved in the relaunch of a police building. The police officers are going to have the place open all day. I mean, I can put police officers in front in the town as well.
Perhaps that's something we work
Yeah.
on, we as a collective come up with a little plan about how we encourage people to go and have a look around.
But you're probably surprised, you won't get a lot of people wanting to walk in the police.
No.
Which is, I know, we're not shocked.
To the high street.
We provide a public service, like people don't go to hospital, unless they need to go to hospital. Yeah. While we work into the police station, but like we promised, we'll have it open for the day, we'll have some staff, we'll have some cars, and kids want to go there and sit in on which they like. And what I could do is have one of the PCSOs in the town, and chat to their parents, just want to say, it's wrong, down the road, you can sit in one.
Councillor Whitaker raised a good point, just to clarify, the back office is it's just going to be the front bit so that people can come in.
No, you can't, you can't go
So just-
inside,
Yeah,
members can't go inside any police stations, because there's restricted material in there, pictures on walls, pictures of.
yeah, no, that's not.
They're not very nice places.
Marcus got her hand up now.
So I guess one question, what time will you be?
The
There and
the day shifts start at 8, so I want them to be in East Grinstead before.
Okay, our classic car show is
11 till 3.
They'll
11 to 3.
be here for those 4 hours.
So are we going to have a councillor stand?
No,
No, okay, or council stand.
we're full with cars and motorbikes. Something on the Mackendale lawn.
Why don't we take this, because otherwise we will take a
Yeah,
while to
that's
discuss the
fine.
plan, but it feels like we need to come up with a way to.
If you have a stand, we'll join you.
Yeah.
But if not, we'll have some PCSOs in the busy area.
Sure.
Forgive me, councillor Barnett.
You have to make that lane,
Yeah.
direct people down.
Just wondering whether it'd be worthwhile putting the police car at the junction with Church Lane, and
Yeah.
then you have time saying, go down to the police station as well.
We can
You attract attention to the police car and then funnel them down to the police station. Yeah.
Thanks, Alan.
Okay.
Lovely, thank you very much.
So much.
Wonderful. Always a brilliant update, and I'm very much looking forward to the open day. I will be there climbing inside the police car. That'd be great. Wonderful, thank you, Jane. You are up next. Interim Chief Executive. I think is that
Deputy Chief Executive.
Interim Deputy Chief Executive, Queen Victoria Hospital. Thank you so much for coming. I know there's loads of updates here, so we've got some lovely slides as well. We'll run through these. Hopefully, just checking it's all lovely. If we crack on.
There we go.
Wonderful. Thank
Do you
you.
want to say next slide and we'll
Thank
move
you.
it slide?
Oh, thank you very much. So thank you very much for inviting us to come and speak today. As I say, I'm Lynn Dixon, I'm interim deputy chief exec. Abigail Jager, interim chief executive on holiday. Thank you very much for your support the hospital feels like they have in the local population there. And so particularly I've come to speak about the Community Diagnostic Centre, which we're about to build on the site in Victoria, but I will just touch very briefly on how it dovetails with our info strategy. So next slide, please. Thank you.
There we go.
So many of you will have probably seen in the press, you might have heard about community diagnostic centres. The NHS 10-year plan is about moving from acute to community. It's about providing care close to people's homes and certainly dealing with health inequalities, and community diagnostic centres are really important part of that. It's really about being able to give people diagnostics closer to home, away from acute hospitals, and certainly looking at pathways of care rather than individual diagnostic tests. We go to primary care and get one test to go back to the results. So we're looking at streamlining that. Next slide, please. Okay. So you will sure many of you have been involved in all of the work around strategy for Victoria Hospital. Huge amounts of work on around what should the future look like for the hospital. Very much looking back at the historical work that's been done there and how important that is certainly to the town and to the local population. And the strategy that we agreed on very much was about continuing to be a centre of excellence for reconstruction and sleep, an integrated service office really offering partners to deliver excellence, and very much local services as well. So something about the very specialist nature of the work that Victoria does. Certainly, as I say, building on the historical work that's done there. Then there's something very important about the local level. And how we dovetail both of those really. I've mentioned the 10-year plan. Next slide, please. 10-year plan for England, where we talk about 3 shifts really, analog to digital, hospital to community, and sickness to prevention. And so the Community Diagnostic Centre really speaks to all of those 3 shifts. It speaks to people being able to go much more locally, having lots of different diagnostics done, pathways of care, using lots of digital technology to AI particularly as well in terms of diagnostics, and of course being much more about community knowledge. Thank you. Next slide. So our CDC, as I say, we talk about it being very much part of our local offer and local strategy. Next slide, please. And what I really wanted to do tonight was to give you a bit of a flavour. Like many of you will have seen this before, so I won't dwell too long on it. But this is about what will this look like for us, what will it look like for the town, what will it look like for those living close. This is a mock-up of what the CDC will look like. We have planning permission for this. We're currently doing the exploratory work around the site. The work is due to begin probably within about 3 weeks to start the build. And certainly it's true to say with the planning permission, there's very much around about this. How are we sympathetic to what the hospital currently looks like in the past? And how also does it look modern? How do we bring those 2 things together? And this is what it will actually look like. A single story, so very good in terms of access, disability access. Next slide, please. Thank you. This is another view of what it will look like, really, when you look at it from the garden and looking from the front, the main entrance. And again, we're trying to have a blend somewhat behind all of the trees and the shrubs, but also be a very specific NHS looking at them. Next slide, please. Try to give you as much visuals as we can. This is Old Town Road. It's also just important to know that though this picture shows the hedge quite low, we've decided along with planners the hedge should be higher. So certainly if people walking on the road and people living opposite, they still see the hedge around the window. Next slide, please. And this is what you will see from the main entrance to the hospital as you come in. So try to give you a bit of a flavour as to what it will look like. And then lots of colleagues here have been to our own community as well to talk to the local residents about what this will look like. And it might feel like. Thank you. Next slide. Now this is very difficult to see. I'm not going to dwell on this, but actually this is just goes to show what the inside will look like really. And the pink is all the clinical areas. So the vast majority of the building will be about chemical interactions, providing care, bio treatment, and diagnostics. In consultations, obviously blue is for staff, it's about changing. Grey is the plant, which is part of the building, and orange is more for the waiting areas. So we've tried very much to design it in a way where the bulk of the work is about interactions, it does feel comfortable to come into, it's DDA compliant, and gives us lots of ability to really scale up on what we need to do for the meeting. And I'm kind of flashing this up, but we can come back to the anyone wants to. I'm not just tonight, I've got lots of time, so I'll carry on. Next slide, please. So the next steps for the CDC, we're doing all of the groundwork, as I say, the surveys and what's under the ground before we actually get on to the actual work. This slide's slightly out of date now because actually we do have a timeline for main construction, but we're just trying to work through what will happen to that timeline if we find any more initial exploration. And we aim for this CDC to be fully operational by 2026 spring. It's also true to say that we are already providing diagnostics, as you know, on site. So what this new building does is it brings it all into one lovely space. It's true to say the state of the hospital needs a lot of work in the areas we're worried about. So we see this capital investment which has come from outside, then from the central to the national team. That's really important to really firm up the structures that is listed from QPH. But actually there's lots of that diagnostic work already going on. This will just enable us to do much more of that in a much more compliant and patient and user-friendly building. Next slide, please. So it's also just wanted to give a nod here to the fact that the CDC is a really important part of our strategy, part of our local offer. But also, since we launched our strategy, the national and local landscape of the NHS has shifted. We can all see that, read it and hear about it. The financial regime that we're working in is much tighter. The need to make savings and economies is clear. And that for us as an organisation has caused us to consider how much of that strategy is implementable and how much of that requires us to look for long-term sustainable in the future. So I'm sure you'll be seeing some of the work that comes out of the hospital and work that you're involved in for different reasons. We are looking at our sustainability and we are currently looking to see if we can partner with another NHS organisation. So we're looking at public group modelling. It's not a merger, it's no conversations about merger, but it is about where do you get corporate strength and resilience to maintain the specialist services that hospital delivers on, which actually requires a lot of companies to deliver it. So that work is ongoing. So we're doing lots of work really around engagement with others, engagement internally, and I'm sure there'll be work done certainly beautifully. That was all I was going to say. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, that is brilliant. I know we're all very excited about the new diagnostic centre, so we're very grateful to see the slides and be brilliant when it's fully operational. So thank you again for talking us through that.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Jane, for coming in. I was lucky enough to attend your presentation. I can just a few weeks ago. I can just say that the contractor has been appointed and the contracts have been signed. So they said on the day. So this will happen, which is fantastic news. And is there potentially any more? I know you said you are looking at partnering. Is there anything else you can add to that in terms of possible likely partners or the types of partners or a model somewhere in the southeast that this is sort of happening?
Yeah, of course. So we're currently looking at partnering with another acute provider. So there's lots of work that's going on around who should we partner with, what would be the best criteria to make that decision on. There are lots of conversations with a number of partners, both in Sussex and Surrey and wider, actually, Painters and St Ponce have felt there. And the regional office are heavily involved in this, as is NHSC at central level, as is the ICB. So we're currently now in a position where we're talking to a small number of acute providers, in Surrey and Sussex, and looking at what should be the criteria that would help to set QPH up for success. And I know that Abbott Young, when she's back, and others are looking to share some of that criteria more widely. So what I can say is we're looking in conversation with institute providers, not a merger. And I can say we're not looking at universities to assessments. For a number of reasons, partly because of what they've got on at the moment, partly because of history, and partly because of where we look as partly and our strength in cities.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to wholeheartedly, I'm sure, echo the views of this committee and the wider community around the support for this. I think putting aside the sort of planning challenges or certain residents having reservations around that, I think we're all in favour of that. I think one of the challenges that I've had and others have had, I'm sure, is the parking situation. I think obviously some land was sold off, the parking's tightly. Can you elaborate or have any sort of insight into what may be thought about in terms of parking?
Yeah, of course, and certainly at the evenings we've done, local residents have come and expressed the same issue, so we understand it's entirely possible to support the concept and be worried about parking. It's a very real issue. So there's a couple of things we're doing. So number one, we're starting to look at how we structure our charges for parking on the site, both for staff and visitors. But there is a need to invest in the infrastructure, and they've been kept at a very low price for a very long time. If you compare us to other NHS providers, not particularly for patients, but for staff. So we're looking at that. There is a need for us, I think, to manage the parking better on the site, to ensure that those that are parking have paid up permits, that the cars are not left there when people are not. There's all kinds of things we need to put in place to manage the site better. And then there is something as well about how we then start to invest in greater spaces on these sites. So certainly for the CDC, there is parking outside the CDC for the CDC. And by virtue of how we expect people to use it, it should come in, it's a shorter volume and then go on. So we've enabled enough parking, we believe, for those rooms to be used and people to park and use them. But it doesn't alter the fact that even without the CDC, we have a parking challenge. So there's lots we're doing around, we've explored things like park and ride, that doesn't really work. We have very little control over the bus usage, like all the supply of the buses, and any control that can be had over that, we've asked for help with, because they come so infrequently. It's very hard for patients and staff to use public transport. So therefore, it's really posed us to do something better with this site. It's too early for me to give details, but we are looking at, there is quite an area of land that we have that we potentially think we could develop using more parking for patients and staff. And then we need to make patient parking much more safe and friendly, close to the employees. So the short answer is it's a work in progress, but we absolutely understand whatever's in our gift, we need to do something to actually.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, just following on from that, really, as a board of staff member, you mentioned about maybe increasing pricing to staff. My concern will be for many residents, the issue of just pushing the problem out into the local streets. So I think there'll be a lot of residents that will be very upset to suddenly see lots of cars. There's already Stowe Quarries overflowing, and the Lancaster Drive area, the top of that, where people are just parking their cars. They start having to because there's not enough parking. So I think that should be very mindful of pricing out the staff, so they just go and park on the roads and cause a problem for us down the line.
I agree, and I think but there's something about that you're having worked there. The current financial climate, cost of parking for staff is lower than any other organisation. And so our proposals are still being reviewed internally, but we are looking, the proposal is to stagger it based on staff salary. So we're talking about being very, very sympathetic to staff from low salaries. We're talking about being in line with other NHS providers. But most importantly, that money should be used to reinvest in spacing. So at the moment, even with the prices as they are, residents feel that staff can park on the road. We've got to invest in infrastructure in the hospital to give them space.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we need to do, but I want to take it.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Thank you, it was a brilliant presentation. Look forward to having you back again soon to talk us through the next stage and the partnerships when they come on there.
Thanty you. I know what others here want to say, we thank you. We do feel very supported.
Thank you.
Thank you, good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
have a good meeting. Thank you.
Right, on to the next agenda item, just a one for noting, which is nominations for the Unsung Hero Award. We would encourage people to submit. The deadline is at the end of August, which is the end of this week. I understand it's a very simple nomination process, 100 words on the website, nice and easy. So please do put your heads together, think about who we would like to, and encourage people to push on and nominate. And now for the community team report, over to Alice.
Thank you very much. I'll just whiz through if anyone's got any questions. Sunnyside Farm, still not quite full, but fuller than it has been, and we're still advertising and booking regular hires and ad hoc bookings as well. Whole range of community classes are in there, yoga, cardiac rehab, friendship groups, so that's really nice because that's obviously why Town Council purchased it. And of course the youth club. And I put in there. Yes, I have put in here. So the booking of Sunnyside Barn is going to be moved over from the community and tourism team to Alice McLean, who does the bookings and functions. So everything all sits together in one group, which makes a bit more sense. So we kind of would have handed that over by next week, finally. So everything will be handed over that. So that'll be happening. Farm market's going quite well. Got our regulars and a few other interested providers. So we're talking to people about that. So yeah, it's going well. SIDS have continued issues with trying to get the data off the SID. I am meeting at the lamppost with my laptop on today. So you jump past us, that's what we're doing. So hopefully we can get all the data down there. And then they will move on to their next locations, which will be Woodley Avenue and Herentide Drive. And then I'll be able to present the data to the next committee as well. And hand over information, share information with everyone who's interested. And then I've got a note here which about the SIDS also, which is just referring to an action point at the end of the agenda about consideration of a SID poll on West Street. So I just made a little note here about what the process was for that, and it was a fairly long process that involved planning permission from Mid Sussex District Council and a permission from Highways approval and getting an S115 licence following a 28-day public notice period, and then the cost of the installation of a temporary pole as well. So that was just noted for the previous meetings. Pub Watch, I've now handed over the chair of that to Dorset Arms, Darren at Dorset Arms, which is great. Attendance is small but regular, and there hasn't been any huge issues. A few people on the band, so no huge issues there. Community and tourism desk has been nice and busy over the summer, which is really good. Our Facebook and Instagram, we've been increasing reviews per day quite drastically, which is really good. Sunnyside Youth Club, it's been going really well, really high attendance over the summer holidays. It was a poll to come because we normally have a week A and a week B, but with people going on holiday, we've opened up to everyone and people just fill out the poll on Tuesday to come on a Thursday, and we've had like 23 out of 26 every week. It's been really good attendance. And we've really enjoyed the summer as well, being going down to the rec and doing games and stuff on Sunnyside Rec. So that's very nice. I am in the process of trying to recruit 2 new youth workers to have a youth club at the King's Centre for older young people from kind of 13 plus. We've got 1 promising person at the moment, but we really need 2 youth workers before we can actually kind of get this kicked off. So we're still looking. If anyone knows anyone, please spread the word and let me know. We need someone who's got experience of working with youth and that particular age group as well. Any questions?
Well, firstly, just thank Alice for on the Sunnyside Barn. It's from one Alice to another. Just to say, I've noticed, and this could be a more reflection on me and my Facebook time. I've definitely noticed an uptick of what's popping into my feed on Facebook. So there's lots of nods around the room, so it's maybe not just me and my Facebook time. So I want to thank the team, because that is, if that is replicated from what I'm seeing around the community, that will resonate, and we'll certainly start to see more people at events, you know, etc., etc. So I, for one, so thank you for that. And again, this just shows again my lack of paying attention. I didn't realise, so I read this, that the SID polls had to be removed. They were temporary. I knew the SID had been removed. I didn't realise the poll had been removed. So that's actually so thank you for that information. That was something, and I think this says more about our country and the fact we can't do anything. The fact that needs to go through all of this just to put in place a poll. So I think that's one which we as obviously a town council will look to grease the wheels, as it were. But I think, yeah, this is more to the state of our nation than it is around us as a town. So thank you for having done that in the past. And I think as a committee and more wider, if we're looking to do this, it's probably worth one to think about other places, because I'm sure to go through this, there's a kind of overhead to go through the process. Let's think about not just putting it for West Hill, but are there any others? So yeah, thanks for that. So sorry, less of a question and more of a thank you.
Yeah. Follow a similar pattern, really. It's more of a thank you. It's good to see the incremental changes, I suppose, of getting more users for the Sunnyside Barn, and chasing perhaps one or two more people for the farmers market. There have been occasional such comments on Facebook and other places muttering about farmers market in half expectation that you can somehow magic out of thin air sort of new retailers and all the rest of it, and life isn't like that, is it? You know, it's a lot of work, and they can't necessarily come on another day because they've got their own pattern of markets to go to. So it's good to see incremental sort of, we're not going to see a dramatic change, no doubt. Just keeping it up. Thank you.
This one's going to reflect a little bit on the Facebook chat and effects. I know you'll be very grateful to the vendors that are there on the Thursday, and it's always really busy, so it's lovely to see that. But I think in the inevitability, people take it for granted, and it's something that brings a bit of attention or something. So I'm grateful for exploring those opportunities. So another thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Good report. I'm pleased to see that Sunnyside Barn is going well. I'm always a little bit concerned about, shall we say, community buildings, being involved with both the Haven Centre, which seems to struggle on, and also the Ark, for which Turners Hill Parish Council spend half their meetings moaning about having to maintain the thing. And all I can say is let's make sure that we do put some money aside for that, for when the bills come in. My question is about, as someone who has happily bolted a SID to a piece of street furniture without worrying about the niceties of needing planning permission, this was, I hasten to say, in Crawley Down. Well, perhaps it's more like the Wild West out there. Puzzled about the weight, right? Because presumably the batteries sit on the ground.
No.
They're not in the box.
The batteries are inside the SID.
The batteries are inside the SID. Is that because they get nicked if you put them on the ground? Is that the problem with it?
The SID that we've got, it's designed to be in the
In the
SID,
box,
not on the
right, that
ground.
explains it in one, right?
And
When
then
we
we've
come
got
up to
the
renewing,
solar
maybe we
panels,
could
which is
put them on the
heavy as
ground,
well.
because
They're not
The solar panels add extra weight, don't they?
Yeah.
So they're just deemed too heavy to go on street furniture.
right, yes, the ones which were, what I was putting up was just the box, and the box with the electronics it's heavy, but it's not so heavy that you could argue that it's down there, and then the batteries sit on the ground with a chain and a cable. No.
I haven't seen it like that, no, it's not how it works.
Okay. Well, that'll do. Thank you again, Anne. It's a brilliant report as always. Look forward to hearing more about the King Centre, and we'll have there in due course. Our final substantive point, I think, for the agenda is the street naming and numbering policy consultation. a very exciting title. I'm sure we're all hugely animated about that one. It's in the pack. I'm sure you've had a good read. The town clerk and I had a chat through it today. I don't see there to be any issues, but I'd be very grateful for comments and concerns. Thank you, Councillor Barn.
Having sat on a train for 2.5 hours coming back from Birmingham earlier on today, I did find something actually. It's 13.7, I think, if I remember correctly. It was just something that was phrased in an odd way, and it's probably sat there and it talks about when you are going to conduct a ballot to
I have
change.
13.7. It says where a simple majority of 2/3 in number of
Yeah.
total electorate
There you
are in
go.
favour of making the proposed change, then the council may consider changing the name of the street. So we could end up with a sort of
Referendum.
a referendum.
But it's a simple majority usually means
Spot.
one more than the other. It's
Yeah.
not 2/3. A simple majority isn't a majority of 2/3.
Quite right. Perhaps.
There's a conflict between the two.
I think it might be an idea to add the word voting after electorate.
Yes.
Town clerk, would you be
Simple
kind enough
majority of
to
2/3.
relay our concerns about point 13.7?
Shows how bored I was on the train.
You're absolutely right.
What's the rest of
A simple majority of 2/3 is a.
Yeah.
I think the point of voting,
voting
the
is
total
fine.
electorate is everybody that can vote. We're never going to get 2/3.
No.
You don't get that in general any
No.
election.
Lovely, well, that is
That's if anyone wants to change the name.
changed the
That's
name.
single transferable vote, comes from.
So we recommend it's a majority.
We recommend it's important.
Total electorate, who votes,
Who votes.
total votes.
2/3 of the total votes received.
Yeah.
Votes, yes.
Yes, so a little redraft there would be our suggestion. Any
Yeah.
What
further
is enough?
amends to this particular consultation?
It's just good to see the prominence given to local councils' views.
Agreed, I think that is absolutely right, yeah. Lovely, in which case, just to briefly note the actions list, which I covered through the course of the meeting already today. The messages of hope, the town clerk is continuing to follow up on that. Evergreen Farm, actually, that's the Worcester. That was just to keep a liaise on that. Is there anything you want to provide a update on?
I haven't heard much more from our local clerks of works on it. I do drive past there
Yeah.
and sort of note and keep an eye on lorries around. But unless I get a nod for anything specific, I think we are still monitoring it.
Yes, still on.
And I'm still working.
Yeah.
With the director that runs it. I think it's just gone quiet on site because of market conditions. Once the weather changes, it will change again and we'll see it more mud on the road and that sort of thing. Yeah, so
Yeah.
I think bearing in mind it's a 2.5 year project, maybe longer now, but we are still monitoring it, Chair.
Perfect, thank you.
Just on that, I think